Hey everyone, here with a review of the Nitesun DIV15s Divelight. Before getting started, I'd like to thank the kind people over at Nitesun for sending me along this flashlight for testing and review. I did tell them I would speak to all points, good or bad, and be fair with my review, and I can say, after 35 dives, deepest of which being a technical dive down to 63 meters, and a handful of nighttime public safety dive trainings, I really haven't found any major issues with this light, and this has really become one of the major parts of my dive gear. If we look at the front end here, you can see 4 Cree XPL LEDs. This puts out a maximum of 3,800 lumens for 1.5 hours, or 1,300 lumens for 3.5 hours. If we unscrew the tail cap here, you can see the light is powered by two 26650 lithium-ion batteries, which are included as well as with a charger with a Divelight. Nice and convenient. Looking at the tail end here at the threads, you can see it has 3 O-rings and is waterproof down to 200 meters. If we look at the bottom side of the light here, you can see it comes with a fully adjustable Goodman handle. This is perfect if you want to have your light close to hand, but still retain use of your fingers for checking gauges, adjusting straps, things of the sort. This thing is fully adjustable in width and both in height, which lets you fit a wide variety of shapes and sizes of hands with or without dry suit gloves. If a Goodman handle isn't quite your thing, you can take it off and run it as a normal dive torch, which is the way I prefer to use it. I'll talk to that in a little bit, but very versatile, works very well. The light is turned on with a simple press of the machine titanium power button here. If we look closely, you can see a power indicator built in underneath. It goes from green to orange to red, meaning you won't be surprised by dead batteries mid-dive. As soon as I picked up this light for the first time, I was immediately impressed by how nicely it felt and how nicely constructed it was. Looking closely, you can really see the time, effort, and expertise that went into making this light. Carries on to the small details like the threading, which are cut nice and smoothly. Unlike cheaper lights, I've never had any issues with unscrewing or screwing this back on and cross-threading, which is a constant issue with some of my other lights. The handle has a nice gridded texture here, which is not too aggressive, but it does provide a really good amount of grip, especially when you're using this as a normal hand light. And it's not overly aggressive where it's going to start to braid your gear or start to get snagged on their stuff. The switch has a perfect amount of tension where it's not too hard to press or change modes, but not so easy that it gets accidentally turned on during your dive or accidentally in your gear bag. I also really appreciate the simplicity of modes on this light. It is high, low, or off, nothing else. Unlike some of my other dive lights where I'm constantly fishing through a handful of different modes or going into some crazy strobe mode or SOS mode that's completely useless. This thing is just nice and simple to use, and I don't find myself frustratingly trying to find the mode I want underwater. I was initially a little bit worried about the performance of the 4 emitters and that the beam pattern would be too wide to be really usable in murky waters. I found it to be a good balance between flood and throw and really performing well in super high visibility over 100 feet or down to 20-30 feet. One of my favorite features in a primary dive light has become field swappable batteries. Unlike my old primary dive light here, which can only be recharged on the surface, takes about 2 hours. This thing can be changed within a matter of seconds during your surface interval. Especially when the batteries get old and tired and don't hold a very good charge, this thing I have to send back to the manufacturer, pay quite a bit of money for them to replace the batteries and have it sent back. Rather inefficient. This thing, batteries can be found for about 15 to 20 bucks, extremely affordable. You can get a couple sets on your dive and you don't have to worry about running out of power underwater. As hard as I tried, I can only find a few minor issues with this light. First of which is more of an issue of personal preference, but the long body on this light doesn't lend itself very well to the use with Goodman handle. Personally, I prefer to have my light out at a little bit of an angle. I do dive with my hands out in front of me, clasped kind of close to my chest, and I found that I had to have the tail either to one side or the other to be able to use the light comfortably. I think Goodman handles are awesome, but they're really well suited to use with canister lights where you only have a light about that size and no tail. You have a cable coming off going to the battery pack. Not a big issue. I did find myself taking this Goodman handle off and actually using this as a normal hand torch and then clipping it to my BC with a snap shackle. Not a big issue, but again, a very minor one. Another very minor issue with this Goodman handle is that it does take up quite a bit of space when you fold it up and stow it. Again, not a very big problem, but when you're trying to travel light and compact, it does take up quite a bit of space. Despite those few very minor issues, I found this Divelight has outperformed almost every other Divelight I've used in the past couple of years, most of which costing more than double what this does. For a very reasonable $125 US, I think you'd be extremely hard-pressed to find a better value or better performer in a Divelight. This light has really proven itself to be an extremely amazing performer and has become an indispensable part of my dive gear and one of my go-to dive lights. If you want more information about Nitesun and their lights, you can find a link down below in the description to their website. Thanks for watching. As always, dive safe.